Everybody, welcome back to Tenza Motorsports. Today we're going to be doing some fun upgrades, some daily driver upgrades on an F30 320. Now we've done some projects on this car, just kind of off camera, some cosmetic stuff, some of our BMW overlays. We did black and pink. The owner of the car likes to do a lot of pink on it. So where the M3 stripes are, there's some pink striping there, and then just basically just cosmetics on the car. But today we're gonna be doing some performance on it. Now we are gonna be doing a Turner Motorsport intake and then a Turner Motorsport tune. We did have lined up to do a forged blow-off valve, but we had some issues with one of the screws. And unfortunately that screw that's back in there, once it gets stripped, it's kind of ruined. And I think somebody's been in there before us, because when we tried to do it, it just spun immediately. So unfortunately that's probably been postponed indefinitely, unless there's at some point where we're pulling the turbo out or something like that, because the blow-off valve is so close to the block that you can't really get tools in there to try to extract that bolt out any other way than to just pull it out with everything all pulled apart. We are going to be doing the intake. This won't be an in-depth install on this intake. There is a lot of parts to it, but Turner Motorsport does a really good job of sending very detailed instructions. There's a lot more components and hardware than you would see on like a standard, like an E46 that we work on most of the time. But these are really cool. It actually moves it away from the engine a little bit. And you can see here, there's some shielding and some reflective heat tape. If we see any spots that are kind of odd or that we think should be discussed, we'll stop the video and do that. Now we do have the car slightly pulled apart. The original air box is out. We did a thermostat last night, which we did pretty late, because we wanted to make sure that today was all the fun stuff and dynoing it. And that's the other thing. So we did go and take the car and get it dynoed. And this is what that looked like. Now where we are at here is around 4,700 feet, just over 4,700 feet above sea level, and the car dynoed 200 horsepower. Now this has a slight correction on it for what you would see at sea level. So the car is supposed to do 180 at the crank, and with our corrected numbers we saw 200, which means up here we're seeing around 180. And I can't remember the pound-feet, but I'll have it here in text for you. But we were just so excited about that horsepower number. BMW really underrates these engines. The other thing that we saw that was really cool about the torque specs was of how fast that torque came in. We had basically all of our torque at around 2,000 RPM, which is quite different to something like my race car here, where everything was very linear. You have to wait for it to build up. You have that initial engine grunt, but the supercharger, the added horsepower and the added torque is going to come in a little bit later. This car has all that torque way down low, which agrees with some other dynos I've done. I had a 135 that we dynoed, and I had all of my torque at just over 1,800 RPM. So it's really cool to see where the torque comes in on this car. Basically the torque's there immediately, and by the time the torque starts to dive off, the horsepower is there to replace it. We're really excited to get this all done. Anything abnormal or important, we'll make sure to stop and talk to you guys about it, so that if anybody's doing the same project, we're not having a lot of questions or any confusion about this process. So let's get this started.
This is my BMW 320i N20 engine that is all-wheel drive. It is my daily. We are doing a few upgrades to make it fun but keep it reliable.
So the intake is on. It really didn't take that long. I think we're in this about 35 minutes. Probably the biggest thing about it was that this plate right here was difficult to get in and have the intake pipe at the same time. So what we ended up doing was the connector that's up here, we actually took the screw out of that and slid everything over in one piece, have the intake connected to this heat shield in one piece, and then we actually did this rubber grommet connector here, separate. Hood latch, if you can see here, we actually put them here. So this used to run back behind the original box, and we moved it up around here into the front, and then you can use those same connectors and just push them up against the front. And then over here on the right hand side by the expansion tank, we undid that and then ran the cable, so instead of being here, it's on the other side of that. And we might do something else so it's not just sitting in there getting damaged, but that's where we rerouted that. So because the blow-off valve didn't work for us, I've heard that this actually makes quite a bit of noise, so we're gonna turn the car on and then listen for that, and then we'll get the tune done, and then we'll go and get it dynoed. So we're really happy with that. That's actually a lot louder than what we were expecting. So obviously we would have really liked to have that blow-off valve on there. And then if we ever did any more to the car, that BOV system would have allowed us to take the boost up even more. But we're really happy with this intake. So we're actually gonna take it for a quick spin because I want to hear what it sounds like. So that sounds absolutely awesome. That's almost identical to what we were hoping the BOV would sound like. So again, still kind of salty about it. That's why I keep bringing it up. But not everything works out all the time. If you can get your blow-off valve to work on your car, absolutely do it. I'll have all this linked in the description below, and I recommend trying to get yours to work as well. We might try a little bit later. I think that if we remove a few things that we could get that bolt out, but for right now, we're just gonna do the tune and the intake. So that's some pretty crazy output for just a tune like that. It is awesome what you can do for less than $1,000 with some of these newer cars, especially ones that come turbocharged. And to see that torque, again, right off the bat, almost right at an idle, full torque. By the time the torque curve starts to come back down, the horsepower is there to take over. So between the intake sounds and added performance that intake does and the tune, we are very happy with all this. Again, everything will be linked down in the description below. We are gonna be doing some more stuff on that car, a lot more daily driver stuff, a little less race car oriented. I know that a lot of my content is designed for people that are doing really intense builds that aren't going to be constantly driven. So where you're modifying this, that's not something that you want to drive back and forth to work all the time. But a car like this F30 that we just did, there's gonna be a lot of daily driver upgrades we'll be doing to that. So thanks so much for watching. If you like today's content, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, check out our Patreon, linked in the description below. Leave any comments or questions you had on today's topic, and we'll see everybody in the next video. All right, so that sounds absolutely awesome. It is how it is. It'd be what it did sometimes, and go be like that.